Welcome, everyone, from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us to what is our inaugural open house, graduate open house for the new Multi-College Department of Design Tech and our new program, which is a Master of Science in Design Technology. My name is Jenny Sabin. I'm a professor of architecture and also the inaugural chair for the Department of Design Tech. And it's my pleasure to introduce all of you to Dean Mi-Jin Yoon, who is the Dean of the College of Architecture, Art, and Planning, and also the lead administrative dean of this new, very exciting multi-college Department of Design Tech, which we are going to tell you a lot about today. But with that, I'll pass it to Mi-Jin to say a few words and welcome all of you.
Thanks so much, Jenny. And thank you all for joining us today and for your interest in design tech at Cornell. Really glad that you're all here virtually, because if you're here, it likely means that you're excited or perhaps curious about this emerging space between design and technology, about what it is and what it means when design as practiced by one discipline is expanded beyond disciplinary boundaries with fellow researchers and scholars, educators working really on different platforms and means to look at related problems. And all these problems are human problems. They intersect with the human scale and are about human means to human ends. Design tech, as Jenny shared, spans 5 colleges at Cornell, and the department was founded on a few common principles. Among them, that design and technology are fundamentally human domains. And I want to thank Jenny and her colleagues here who'll be giving a lot more examples of the ways both design and technology are changing the world every day and at every scale. I would say that it's probably never been more critical in terms of our own humanity and the next generation to work at this intersection between the digital, the physical, the biological, and the human. And in this time, because of the acceleration of technology. At Cornell, this work at the university leverages existing strengths across the university, identifies critical needs and gaps in design and technology in terms of both the research and practice space. And we are committed to working together and collaboratively to advance both design and technology as the most critical and perhaps the most promising means by which we can engage the world to help shape its future. Design Tech at Cornell was also founded as a way to bring leading expertise across fields and leading faculty together in the studio, in the lab, and the classroom across design, engineering, biology, computer science, medicine, arts and sciences, and the built environment, so that we can actually not only catalyze imagination, but also accelerate innovation to explore both material, spatial, and the interactive relationships, ranging from the nanoscale, which you're going to hear a bit about, to the macro scale, all in the service of making a better future for all. Thanks, Jenny. I'm handing it back to you.
Thank you so much, Dean Yoon. And with that, we are going to shift into the formal part of the event this morning and this afternoon or this evening, wherever this may find you in the world. But thank you so much, Dean Yoon, for joining us. So first, a little bit about our context. The Cornell main campus is based in Ithaca, New York, which is situated at the southern end of Lake Cayuga, offering unparalleled beauty in the Finger Lakes region and also here in New York State. Here you can see a photograph taken from the main campus in Ithaca, looking out towards Lake Cayuga to the north. You can also see the Johnson Art Museum on the right here. And there are just incredible natural resources to take advantage of, including the Finger Lakes, Lake Cayuga, the incredible gorges. Here you can see on the left a view taken along the Taghanic Gorge, and then on the right, a view at sunset of Lake Cayuga. We also have incredible winters in upstate New York. Here's a view of the Taghanic Falls during the winter when it is completely frozen. The other part of our campus is based in New York City. Design Tech is based in Ithaca at the Cornell main campus and also at Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island. And here you can see a view taken on the right from the Tata Innovation Center out towards Midtown Manhattan. And you can see the UN building beyond. And on the left, this was a photograph taken at the very start of the semester with studio kicking off, and we'll talk a bit more about the studio sequence at Cornell Tech. But these are some of the amazing facilities that you will be able to take advantage of both in Ithaca and also in New York City. This is our current space within the Tata Innovation Center, a photograph taken of our students in the design and making across discipline studio, which we'll talk about in detail in a moment. So why design tech? Design and technology, as Dean Yoon stated, in many ways have never been more important. Beleaguered planet recovering from the depths of a pandemic and also facing, of course, an urgent climate emergency demands that design and technology integrate to cultivate new collaborative models and transformative, highly creative applications to comprehend key social, environmental, and technological issues. For example, we ask, how might buildings behave more like organisms, responding to and adapting to their local environments? In the not so distant future, we in Design Tech believe that materials will not just be elements and things in buildings and our built environment, but that they will generate immersive, adaptive spaces. So like the cells in our very own bodies, sensors and imagers will learn and adapt, making materials not only smart, but also aware, sensate, and beautiful. Imagine now if these types of living sensing environments are also 3D printed by robots. 3D printing and advanced manufacturing and robotics are transforming how we live, work, do business, and engage with our communities. And in this context, in many ways, our biggest asset within Design Tech is creativity. Recent advances in computation, visualization, material intelligence, and robotic technologies have begun to alter fundamentally how we design, construct, and make from the nano to the macro scales. We can also 3D print and design with DNA. Imagine a living wall that alerts you to the contaminants within your local environment and also cleans that local air. Or, as recently featured in the Cornell Chronicle, quote, if deep space exploration is to become a reality, which we know it will be, humans will need to be as self-sufficient as possible. Since ordering supplies from Earth won't be practical, the astronauts will have to fabricate their own components for equipment and other products through additive manufacturing, better known as 3D printing, end quote. Those challenges may be overcome thanks to modeling software created in the lab of faculty member Derek Warner at Cornell, And at a radically different scale are 3D printed tissues and body parts, such as this 3D printed ear by bioengineers and physicians at Cornell that looks and acts real, which gives new hope for children born with congenital deformities. And what is at the center of this incredible work? At Design Tech, we think what is at the center is limitless and transformative human creativity. And Cornell is certainly a leader in this space. We are, in many ways, in the midst of a massive paradigm shift that some historians write is the biggest to impact design and technology since the medieval period. These new intersections between the digital, the physical, and the biological are radically altering the world from the nano to the macro scales. So how do we address these pressing issues and questions within the midst of a massive paradigm shift? We think that radical new models are needed for design research, alternative forms of practice, architectural pedagogy, and collaboration across disciplines, industries, and practice. One approach, as structured through the Design Tech multi-college department, entails the hybridization of labs and studios to fuse innovations across science, technology, and design to generate next generation materials and structures that are adaptive, efficient, smart, and resilient. And Cornell is certainly engaged in these critical areas, and the Master of Science in Design Technology program is a leader and innovator in collaborative teaching and research across disciplines. Cornell is what is called an R1 research university, where research activity is very active, offering many opportunities for graduate students to get involved. And in an era where we're witnessing one of the biggest paradigm shifts in the conceptualization and creation of our environments, objects, and interfaces, Cornell pioneers exploration, research, and teaching on topics at the intersection of design and emerging technologies to impact industry, practice, knowledge, and pedagogy in a changing world. From the laboratory to the bench side, to the hospital bedside, and from cultural evolution to concepts and sustainability, our researchers and scholars are translating discovery into meaningful, measurable impact and is changing the world for the better. Cornell's engagement with design and technology across disciplines is very remarkable, both in its breadth and the diversity of topics being taught, researched, and initiated. From game design to robotics, to health, to storytelling, to systems design and beyond. And this is a diagram, if you're able to see it, it's quite extensive, that represents the comprehensive web of collaborative engagements occurring within existing faculty labs, as well as with students in various courses, offerings in design and technology, both in Ithaca and also in New York. So this really serves as an important foundation for the design technology program. The Design Tech department and our newest program, which is the Master of Science in Design Technology, focuses on 3 primary areas. Importantly, the multi-college department is a collaboration between the College of Architecture, Art, and Planning, Cornell Tech, the College of Human Ecology, Bowers Computing and Information Science, as well as engineering. And so those 3 primary areas of investigation, which certainly have overlap, include design plus materials, design plus interactions, and design plus environments. There are opportunities to get involved with core research and specialization projects in these areas with subtopics within design tech ranging from AI, data and design, bio-inspired design, interaction design, digital, spatial, and immersive environments, and responsive programmable materials. as well as digital media design and computational design and robotics. And these slides are just a few highlights of the incredible work happening currently within Design Tech. Within the multi-college department, there are many innovative faculty labs to get involved with through research associate positions and fellowships, both in Ithaca and in New York. And as the administrating college for Design Tech, the College of Architecture, Art, and Planning is a global leader in creativity, innovation, and impact. And AAP brings critical inquiry, design, and imagination to bear on the greatest challenges of our time to build a more just, sustainable, resilient, thriving, and inspired world. As we developed the groundwork that became this new exciting multi-college department and our new program in design technology, we launched a lecture series to explore the diverse components of Design Tech, inviting lecturers from our inaugural faculty, as well as artists and historians at the forefront of design and technology in their respective fields. And this just highlights the 3 installments of our lecture series, which we will continue into the next academic year. There are also opportunities to get involved with exhibitions, both at Cornell Tech and in Ithaca on the main campus. This is a photograph taken from the college-wide exhibition at AAP, where students from design and making across disciplines were able to showcase their work this past summer. As a student within Design Tech, you will have access to absolutely incredible facilities. This is the Milstein Dome, designed by OMA at AAP. This is the Mui Ho Fine Arts Library, also within AAP. And our robotic fabrication space within the main shop. And at Cornell Tech, you will also have access to incredible facilities, including the Maker Lab, as well as to public events such as Open Studio. This is a photograph taken of our student groups at Open Studio last year, which is an amazing event open to practitioners, academics, researchers, people in the industry, where over 400 people come from New York City and in the region to take a look at your incredible work, network, and also talk about future opportunities. So as I mentioned, the new multi-college department is a collaboration of 5 participating colleges. So this slide highlights the participating deans that have contributed heavily over the last 4 years to the shaping of this new department, as well as our incredible inaugural faculty that were key people as part of the faculty task force, which I co-chaired with my colleague, Wendy Ju, who is here on the call as well. And we'll talk about our inaugural faculty more in depth in just a moment, when they will have an opportunity to talk about themselves, their area of expertise, and their participation within Design Tech. But you can see the inaugural faculty draw from each of the 5 colleges within their various departments. So in terms of the composition of the Design Tech faculty, as mentioned, we have our small cohort of inaugural faculty. Eventually, we will have affiliated faculty, as well as Design Tech fellows, and we just launched our first faculty search as part of a radical collaboration initiative, which I'll come back to in just a moment. So this slide highlights our amazing inaugural faculty, Professor Timur Dogan from architecture, Professor Francois Guimbreter from information science, Professor Wendy Ju, who is at Cornell Tech at the Jacobs Institute, and also a part of information science, Hee-Ju Park, who is a professor in human-centered design within the College of Human Ecology, of course myself, a colleague and Professor Uli Weissner, who is in material science and engineering, and Professor Itai Cohen, who is in physics in arts and sciences. So as mentioned, we just launched our first faculty search after many months of collaboration in forming our search call. We're super excited. Over the next 5 to 6 years, we will be doing a lot of hiring to add amazing faculty to Design Tech. And these people will be a part of not only Design Tech, but also the participating colleges and their respective departments. And our search priorities include the following highlights: embodied computation and robotics, AI and data and design, biodesign, and interaction design. So the current primary degree program is the Master of Science in Design Technology. The Design Tech department has partnered with Cornell Tech along with AAP to deliver this new MS in Design Technology, and it importantly straddles both Ithaca and our New York City campuses, and we'll talk about that more specifically in a moment. And the department is the academic unit that's responsible for the administration of the MS in Design Technology in collaboration with Cornell Tech. Over the last 4 years, we have been fortunate through our collaboration between AAP and Cornell Tech to pilot this new program. We launched a series of courses to pursue collaborative teaching across both the design studio as well as required courses and electives, including coding for design, a product studio, which is a core course at Cornell Tech, and design and making across disciplines. And this pilot over the course of 4 years contributed to what is now the curriculum for the new MS. In the first year, the foundational studio is design and making across disciplines, where all students will participate in the studio curriculum. Students will take part in modules that are co-taught by faculty that cover a range of topics. Previously, we have explored bio-informed design and generative design, adaptive and responsive materials, and materials by design, interaction design, as well as biological morphogenesis, and exploring those broad intersections between design and technology, where students are able to take those concepts, techniques, and methods, and then apply that to a design project in the second half of the semester. And these are a couple of photographs taken during Open Studio, where participants attending the Open Studio event were able to test, explore, and investigate the range of student group projects produced in this studio. Over the past few years, the modules have been taught by this cohort of faculty. Uli Weissner has taught the module on responsive and adaptive materials. I have spearheaded the bio-inspired and generative design module, and Professor Wendy Ju has spearheaded our module on interaction design and human-computer interaction. And Jonathan Butcher and Nate Sierra have spearheaded the from biomedical engineering, have spearheaded the biological morphogenesis module. And the themes of these modules will shift and change depending on the faculty that are co-teaching the studio. But importantly, this studio will expose you to hybrid thinking and design and technology to develop synthetic thinking and collaboration skills to effectively work across disciplines, and importantly, to learn how to collaborate and communicate effectively. Here are a couple of photos taken during the studio. Here we see Wendy on the right teaching a course in the interaction design module, and students starting to investigate their generative design processes through 3D printing. The MS in Design Technology is structured through 2 tracks. In the second year, students will elect to pursue one of 2 tracks. One of those tracks is a thesis research track, and the other is a studio specialization project track. And that track will be based at Cornell Tech in New York City. And you will take the studio sequence. In the fall, the studio is called Product Studio, which is a mandatory course for all master students who are taking courses and in programs at Cornell Tech, which will include our design tech students. And during the semester, students work in teams to develop a new tech product or service, and that's in response to a question that's framed through how might we? And previous challenges have come from organizations as diverse as Bloomberg, the New York City Mayor's Office, Citigroup, Microsoft, and Priceline. And these are just a couple of the how might we questions that kicked off the student groups. From Adobe, they challenged students with how might we validate the authenticity of digital content shared on social networks and attribute the content to the creator. So there will be a range of questions that you will have an opportunity to tackle and develop a product and application towards. Encoding for Design, which is a required course in the first semester and the second semester of the first year. Students learn that coding is a language and that design actualizes and applies code towards impactful products, tools, and interfaces. And in the last 4 years of our program, our students have gone on to pursue PhD programs at esteemed universities such as Carnegie Mellon, University of Michigan, Penn, Johns Hopkins, and beyond, as well as moving into practice and industry to lead innovative labs within design and technology. The program also includes co-mentoring students in project-based design learning to expand offerings in emerging technology areas, critical to enhance Cornell's impact on this growing field and also in our communities. On the right is a photo taken in the Maker Lab, where Niti, who is the director of the lab, is working with students on a specific project that they're collaborating on. So a bit more detail on the curriculum for the MS in Design Technology. This slide highlights the first year foundational core. All students, as mentioned, will take the core studio, Design and Making across disciplines for 6 credits. We also have 2 required courses, including Coding for Design and Design for Physical Interaction. And then in the spring semester, all of those courses and the studio continue as a part 2 sequence. And you'll also have an opportunity to take an elective course in both semesters, either within the department or outside of the department, which most of our students elect to do so. During the summer semester, you will have the option to work with faculty on core research or a specialization project, which is a really amazing opportunity for our students to work with faculty in their labs, to deepen their research inquiry or interests in applications that are project-based. In the second year, as mentioned, students will pursue one of 2 tracks. The first is a thesis research track, and those students will most likely stay in Ithaca, although there may be some exceptions for students who wish to work with faculty who are at Cornell Tech. And this is a year-long thesis investigation. You will formulate a committee. You'll have a committee chair, a faculty member from Design Tech, as well as minor members that may be a part of Design Tech or another department and college across the university. So it's a traditional research track. At the end of that year, you will develop not only a technical paper on your research, but also a research project. And typically, most of our students have been very successful in publishing their thesis research. The second track is a project studio track. And those students will spend that second year in New York City on Roosevelt Island at the Cornell Tech campus. And you will participate in the studio sequence, which includes, as just mentioned, product studio in the fall. And in the spring, you'll have a number of different options within that studio sequence, including startup, big co, public interest tech studio, and beyond. And related to the work that you will be doing in the studio sequence, you'll have an opportunity to develop a specialization project with a core group of students and faculty, as well as take electives at Cornell Tech as part of the design tech curriculum. So the program, while we were piloting it and now in its formal stages, has inspired many new collaborations, such as this one with the XR Collaboratory. The XR Collaboratory is directed by Harold Haroldson, where students from AAP and Cornell Tech are working together to integrate cutting-edge XR technologies with design to explore simulated realities and alternative forms of communication. Indeed, we are training broader cross-disciplinary leaders that engage and develop hybrid creative synthetic thinking in design through generative processes, digital fabrication, emerging technologies, and applications across disciplines. Our students publish co-authored scientific and technical papers in esteemed peer-reviewed journals and conference proceedings, including Acadia, CGRAPH, CIMAUD, ASME 2019 to now, which is the International Design Engineering Technical Conference. And many of our students graduate with not only one peer-reviewed paper, but oftentimes multiple peer-reviewed papers as part of their projects and research. This is just a highlight of the repository for those of you that pursue a thesis research track, where you will submit your final thesis document, which will then be available to everyone who's interested in learning more about your research and projects. So where will our design tech students end up? As mentioned, many of our students go out into industry and practice to lead and innovate labs, as well as take on new and exciting projects. This is just a highlight of a few of those places that some of our current students have made successful placements at, as well as pursuing academic tracks, moving into PhDs, and eventually pursuing faculty positions and leading labs at esteemed universities. So with that, I'm going to conclude the slides, but before we open it up to our inaugural faculty, I'm going to play our hot off the press design tech video, which we're very proud of and extremely excited to share with all of you. You are the first audience to actually see this. The Design Tech Department was created to leverage Cornell's existing and unique strengths to foster collaboration and innovation across design, engineering, biology, computer science, medicine, arts and sciences, and the built environment. What began as a pilot program that set out to test a new model for teaching, research, and making at the intersection of design and emerging technologies has now become a very exciting multi-college department operating across 2 campuses and bridging fields and faculty across the university. Design tech importantly fills gaps in high demand areas such as product interaction and digital media design. Within our areas of focus, we offer design plus environments, design plus interactions, and design plus materials.
So how do you scale from the molecular all the way to the architectural scale? Non-trivial. We have now chips that basically have 20 billion field effect transistors on a chip. I do design at the molecular level. So we have basically developed these particles that we are now injecting into cancer patients in order to do therapy. So the particles are 5 to 6 nanometers in size, which is basically the size of one of these FETs on a chip. The question that I'm asking in my research is like, how does the molecular structure of material have to look like at the scale of the human body or the scale of building? The material will perform the function that it's supposed to. Covering these different length scales all the way from the molecular to the human scale, architectural scale, that's the challenge we are trying to address.
I'm interested in wearable human interface. The reason I say human interface is that the clothing we are wearing is really the most intimate interface. One example of a fiber optic technology we have developed as part of a wearable device. Shoes with the smart fiber optic technology, by having this kind of real-time feedback to help people doing underpronation, overpronation, and possible lower body injuries. We are very optimistic about the future of this kind of fiber optic based wearable technology for human well-being. Embroidered sensors will provide a very reliable respiration pattern used for other kind of health monitoring parameter, athletes, firefighters, people who have a disability and just physical and mental differences. How can I support them by providing improved design wearable interface to help people tackle real-world issues, push the boundaries of fashion design.
The hand of design, when it's done well, can be invisible, so we might not notice how important it is until it's wrong. But I think it's actually really important to understand how to do it right, so that when things really matter, we have those skills to bring to bear. So many of the things that we use as devices are interaction limited. Like the main thing that is limiting us from using all the possibility of the technology or the service is the interactions. I particularly work on interacting people with autonomous systems. One really great example of interaction limitations are autonomous cars. We have cars that can figure out where they are in the world, look at the world around them without anyone else telling them, like image the things and drive through the world on their own. But it turns out when those autonomous cars are driving the road with other human drivers or around pedestrians, they don't know what to do. If I make a gaffe, I usually know because people will react. And that actually helps me understand what I should and shouldn't do. Machines aren't paying attention to those reactions that people have. And so they aren't picking up on the local norms that help them behave better. So one of the things I'm interested in doing is collecting the norm enforcing behaviors that people have and then teaching machines to be sensitive to that.
So one of the fundamental questions that drives my research and work and also my teaching is how might buildings and their integrated material elements behave more like organisms do in their natural environments, responding and adapting to a changing context. The project is looking at the relationships between architecture and morphogenesis and the role of context or environment and mechanics. And so we're looking at these concepts across 3 different systems in biology, from plants to brains to the heart, to start to distill a set of design drivers and rules. Because in nature, materials, environmental context, geometry, form, history, event, program, all of that is inextricably linked. And we think that's a pretty powerful and ecological way to think in design.
A new department means there's a new educational mission. And so the mission, in a radical way, is to break down silos. We have these well-defined disciplines and we don't look to the left or to the right. Well, it turns out we cannot afford to do that anymore. The problems we have today are so complex. We need radically different approaches to education so that students are not only deep in a particular area, but they are also at least knowledgeable enough so that they can converse across a broad range of disciplines.
What is actually amazing in this program is that it's collaboration, but with whatever you want, you know? You can collaborate with material sciences, but also with biology. Like, it's collaboration as like the big word. There is no limits. There is no boundaries in with who and how you can collaborate with other departments.
It's almost as if we get more agency in the way that we design because we're thinking about material processes, we're thinking about the aspects that typical architecture firms don't have to deal with on the daily. This program gives you more of a voice to address those concerns.
I believe that some of the best designers and architects make problems and then they solve them. We are in the midst of a massive paradigm shift where we're seeing the fusion and integration of the biological, the physical, and the digital, where the relevance of design as a synthetic way of thinking across multiple relationships, the ability to work through that complexity, to formulate a plan and a path forward is a very important element to addressing some of the key sort of questions and crises that we face. It not only is the future, it's the now. I mean, this is the type of teaching, this is the type of research that we need to be engaged in. So with that, I'd like to invite our esteemed inaugural faculty to say a few words about yourself, to introduce yourself, say a few words about your area of expertise and your work. Wendy, would you like to go ahead and start?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. This has been long in the works. I'm Wendy Ju. I'm an associate professor of information science and obviously in design and tech at Cornell Tech in New York City. What I do is I study how people interact with automated systems. I think the video captured most of what I'm working on, but one of the really wonderful things that I enjoy about being in this space is that we are at this really important intersection where we can think about how the tools of technology can be made more accessible to designers. And so we have kind of this recursive thing where we have designers really grappling with the technologies and thinking about how to make them more open to other people. New York City has a really wonderful link to the design and making world that's centered here, you know, really. And then one of the other things I really like about New York City is the global hub. And so some of the really wonderful research we've been able to do here has been looking at cross-cultural differences and understanding how differences in cultures and behaviors change the way that you want to adapt designs for the future.
Thank you so much, Wendy. And for all of you, Wendy has been an amazing partner in crime. We've collaborated for a number of years now on the Design Tech Initiative. And as mentioned, Wendy was co-chair of the faculty task force that the inaugural faculty were all a part of. So thanks so much, Wendy. So let's go ahead and move to Uli.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm also really excited to be part of this. And I thank Jenny and Wendy for their amazing leadership. As you have seen, this is really an exciting area. I'm basically a physical chemist from training that then went into engineering, and now I'm part of this really exciting program in design tech. And this is really something that is dear to my heart. I, in my career, have started several companies. One of them is basically developing an oncological drug and is now in phase 2 clinical trials. It's probably the most advanced nanotech startup in oncology in the nation. And I'm also basically have a tech startup in the area of bioseparation, so membranes for filtration of viruses. So this transition between kind of fundamental research, design, and bringing things to the market is something that, you know, we've practiced for many, many years. And what I'm super excited about is now being in a department which basically tears down these walls between silos, silos between departments. Because when you come in as students, you have already gotten a really good education in one particular area. And what we want to really help you do is to transform that learning language to be able to communicate between and across different disciplines, something that I think in the world that we are living in will become more and more important because of these global threats and global issues that we all have to save. So we as a faculty were incredibly excited about the opportunity to teach you that type of language and get you involved into really exciting areas of research across these disciplines. And I can't wait to welcome you at Cornell starting that program. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Uli. Hiju, go ahead and move to you.
I'm very excited to be a part of this wonderful transdisciplinary department. And I'm working on body wearable interface. So the clothing these days is not just physical things you put on your body. It is smarter. It becomes an interface you connect with the world outside, and you get the support from the clothing. I look forward to your application, and I love to see you on Cornell campus.
Thank you, Hiju. Itai.
Hi, everybody. My name is Itai Cohen. I'm in the physics department, and the kinds of things that we're interested in range from understanding the design of biological tissues like cartilage, to how the neural system in fruit flies is organized to enable flight, to designing microscopic robots. And so I really have lived on the borderline between fields where, you know, even though my training has been in physics, and you might think that I have nothing to do with any of these areas that I've, you know, inserted myself into. Nevertheless, my experience has been that when you come with this strong background and you start looking at the interface between fields, when you start breaking down these silos, there's a lot of opportunity. And we are essentially trying to do that here in this design tech program. So the faculty, as you can see, are from across the campus, the physical sciences, the arts, and we are really excited to be working in this space in between these fields. And there's a tremendous amount of sort of opportunity there to do things that are interesting, that are exciting, that are new, that are groundbreaking. And we hope that you'll join us on this adventure.
Thank you, Itai. Fantastic. We'll go ahead and move to Timur.
Hi, everyone. Such a big pleasure to be here. Sorry I joined late. I was just teaching a class in the architecture department. Well, I'm an associate professor in architecture, but also have field memberships in systems engineering. And I'm also, like Itai says, kind of trying to bridge between the field of design, in particular architectural design, and kind of the engineering that is required to create sustainable architecture and sustainable buildings. Do a lot of kind of work on energy modeling of buildings and cities, modeling of kind of how we use, how we perceive buildings in terms of kind of view satisfaction to the outside, thermal comfort, visual comfort, these kinds of things. And I'm really, really thrilled to kind of be part of this kind of design tech initiative and program. And I hope I will see some of you in classes or will work with you in terms of research in the lab in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Timur. And I think Francois may have had to exit for a course. He may be able to rejoin, in which case I'll ask him to introduce himself. I don't see him on the grid just yet. Wonderful. So with that, we'd like to now open it up for a discussion, Q&A opportunity for all of you to ask any questions that you may have about the department, the new program, questions that you may have for our inaugural faculty. Feel free to put your question in the chat, or we can go ahead and unmute you and you can pose your question directly. Let's see, I'll go ahead and unmute Yuji Kitamura.
Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm Yuji Kitamura. I am an undergraduate architecture student at Florida Atlantic University. And I had a question for the faculty as well, but also in general. In your personal opinion, what are some of the benefits that this program is going to offer, besides, of course, the amazing interdisciplinary opportunities when comparing it to the post-professional Masters of Science in Architectural Design? So what else would be some of the benefits that you guys look at this, besides, of course, the interdisciplinary? But thank you.
Great, thank you, Yuji. That's a fantastic question. I've invited 3 of our current students who are all second year MS students currently working on their thesis projects. So I'd like to go ahead and invite Julia, Ivania, or Ming to say a few words on your perspective on what differentiates your experience in the program versus our post-professional programs. And then we can maybe say a few things from the faculty perspective.
Maybe Ivania might be the best one to answer that because she's from the US. I guess I'm from Europe and all the programs are, I mean, this one is quite unusual, I guess, in the US, but in Europe, there is no such a thing. So I was so excited to be able to actually cross field and like work with other professors and other departments. So as I said in the video, I'm currently working with a professor in biomechanics. And I feel that this openness and like this possibility of like crossing departments and being in an environment that is already made for that and like costume for that is definitely different than in most of the programs that you will be able to join. And I guess that the fact that like everyone is very close together is so easy, you know. And yeah, it just helps you / it gives you like you can do everything that you want and everything that you can like you imagine. So it's I think it's quite unique because I applied to a lot of masters, to be honest, and this one was definitely the one that was like the most open and diverse.
Great, thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Vanya, do you want to say a few words to the question?
Yeah, so I also applied to multiple different programs, and I felt like this program stood out just because of how well-rounded it was and how, yes, a lot of programs say that they're interdisciplinary, but with Jenny's program, it's very, like, it's apparent in every aspect and every course that you take, not only in your own thesis, but also you're highly encouraged to work in a research assistantship, and you're constantly engaging with other disciplines, whether it's through your thesis or through research that you're conducting under other professors. You're always involved in a new type of conversation. And so from my experience, I feel like this has been the most enriching program that I've yet encountered. And in terms of comparing it to other PhD or other master's programs, it felt like you had to go in having to construct and make your connections in order to very much curate how you'd gain a thesis towards the end. Whereas in this program, it feels like every aspect of the curriculum helps in aiding your thesis work. And so I think the way that this program is curated is quite perfect. So that's been my experience.
Yeah, if I can just add some things, that what I do enjoy in this program is that reaching other departments helps you for your thesis, but it's also, I mean, it also helps the labs that you're working with. So for example, I'm working with the biomechanic department, and it is very nice to feel that they are helping for my work, but in my way, I'm also working with them for like helping them see things in a different way. So this like, yeah, it's quite nice.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. Maybe I'll just say a couple of additional things that the curriculum is in design tech for the design technology MS is quite different from our post-professional degree program. So you may want to compare the two. There's quite a bit of difference in terms of the two tracks. The fact that you can pursue a year-long thesis or spend a year at Cornell Tech, for example. But let's go ahead and open it up for some additional questions. I'm sure there are other questions. See, we have some in the chat. Maybe we'll shift to that. So one question in the chat says, do you think the design tech program is good for students who are looking to pursue a career in UX design, or is it more architectural design driven? Maybe, Wendy, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it depends a little bit on what you mean by user experience design. I actually remember in the early days of user experience design, there was a lot more excitement about smart spaces, for example, and then the web was sort of this surprising thing that came from the side. And I think there was a period of time where you had to explain to everyone that UX design wasn't synonymous with web design. Nowadays, we have to explain that UX design isn't synonymous with app design. In the days of LLM, we might go through another big change. I think one of the really important things about user experience design is what it should be expertise is understanding the user experience and how people's behavior and psychology affects the way they interact with technology. And those are things that don't change, even as the technology is changing all the time. And so to the extent that what people want to do is build Figma prototypes and make apps, though this is a very lucrative career, this is a little bit less what we're focused on. On the other hand, if what you're really interested in is thinking about the way that the constants of human interaction behavior influence the way that we need to design technology in the future, then UX design would be a perfect background for this program.
Yeah, and I would also add that in the design technology program, again, the curriculum is very different from the programs in architecture. We're not focusing solely on applications in terms of buildings, but a range of applications across scales. As Uli mentioned in the video, he works and designs at a radically different scale than I do, or Wendy does, or Timur does. So it's quite different and much more focused on how we design across disciplines and across multiple length scales, not just buildings. Okay. Let's see if there are any hands up. If not, we'll go back to Serge. You want to go ahead and pose your question?
Hello everyone.
Hi,
So
Serge.
I'm Serge Matuta and I live in DRC. So I was interested in that in that call for application. But I'm wondering if it's possible for someone who doesn't really know the design tech to apply, because me, I study at Academy of Fine Arts, so in Kinshasa, but I don't study design. I don't know if it's possible for me to apply, because I'm really interested to discover new things or new experiences. It's really good for me to participate in that experience. I don't know if it's possible for someone who doesn't really know the design tech to participate. That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent question, Serge. The answer is yes. Certainly, coming from a background in the arts, that's excellent experience to bring to design tech. And the first year curriculum is structured to ensure your success and to expose you to methods and thinking in design, but importantly, hybrid thinking that engages collaboration. And so the required courses in coding for design and design for physical interaction also prepare students to be technically adept at the concepts that you'll be exploring. So similar to architecture, we admit students that do not have a design background, and in design tech, we are especially interested in students who are coming from alternate backgrounds. And that's really the spirit of the program. So please do apply.
Okay, I have another question. How can I get more information about this call for application to apply, for example?
I'll put I put the link to the department website, and I'll also put the link to the direct admissions page. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can feel free to get in touch with me directly or any of the inaugural faculty that are here, and we can point you in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to shift to the chat. So this is a question from Thomas. I'd love to know more about the work the program does in wearable devices and embodied technologies. How integrated is the program with the College of Human Ecology's Fiber Science and Apparel Design program? So I'm going to pass that one to you, Hee-Ju.
So I'm working on wearable technology to sense, monitor human interactions, human physiology, human biometrics. So I will be happy to share my website. I will post the link to my website. We have a couple of more faculty members who are working in human ecology on that topic. So if you are interested specifically in wearable technology, I will be happy to discuss with you after this meeting. How integrated is the program with College of Human Ecology, Fiber Science, and Apparel Design? That questions we are still exploring, but in given structure, the design tech department is multi-college department, which means that we are connecting the resource available in other colleges. So depending on the level of collaboration, it has some structure we need to use, but the wearable technology offered in the design tech department will be able to use some resource that is available in other colleges.
Great, thank you, Hee-Ju. Do we have anyone on the grid that would like to? Okay, we do. Jian Yu?
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, thanks. I come from a fine arts background, but my professional experience makes me pretty experienced with pretty much everything that goes on in the makerspace. So I'm looking for a program that kind of I want to bring my skill sets to the next level. So maybe for some art and tech related degree, I feel like I have to go back to the basics, learning digital fabrication which I'm already very familiar with. So I'm wondering what is kind of the general skill sets of the cohorts in this program, and how does the program solve that in the student body there are beginners and there are people who are already sort of experienced, and then there are some very advanced students in terms of computer science and technology training. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Incoming students have a range of backgrounds in terms of experience with the digital tools, whether that's with coding and scripting or working with interactive technologies or digital fabrication. And we have been quite successful in adapting to that variety of backgrounds. And the course called Coding for Design 1 and 2, as I mentioned, we've been able to pilot that for 4 years now. And it does not assume that students come in with even introductory skills, but we also have students that come in with very advanced skills, and that range has been quite successful in terms of how we cater to that. But maybe it would be useful for one of our students to say a few words on that. Either Ming, Julia, or Vanya.
Yeah, I can start with that. So about the physical equipments, for example, we have a shop, digital fabrication shop in our ESL campus, and also digital fabrication lab. So in the digital fabrication lab, we have lots of printers. If you are already very familiar with 3D printers, then you can just make a reservation, then use it. If you're just for beginners, they also can give you some workshops about that. Also, in the digital fabrication shop, we have lots of, we have 3 robotic arms, and also lots of facilities for you can see it in the normal wood shop. So if you already know every skills, then you can just use it. And for the coding aspect, we have this coding for design courses. If you are totally a beginner, then the professor will teach you from the scratch. Then if you already have some skills in programming, then you can just maybe just tell the professor that you're already familiar with those skills. Maybe you can have other, you can jump into the final project or something. But even though you have some certain skills, for example, I learned some C# programming before I entered this program. The coding for design 2 is also very good. I learned a lot from that courses. So basically, I think it will be fine even though if you're, whether you are a beginner or you already got some knowledges. Yeah.
Great, that's really helpful, Ming.
Thank you. And I have another question, is that there's this design tech program, but also in the department there are lots of labs. So what's the relationship between studying in the program and getting involved in some of the labs? So yeah, thank you.
Great question. So as part of the admissions process, we have research assistantships that we're able to offer to the students. And those RA-ships kick off either in the fall semester or the spring semester, depending on whether it's a partial or a full RA-ship. And through those RA-ships, you're able to work directly with faculty in their labs. So we pair students with faculty that they're interested in working with. In the thesis research track, this is a really fantastic opportunity for students to deepen their thesis focus, through the direct work in faculty labs. But then there are also a number of faculty in design tech and outside of design tech that have funded research where they're looking to hire research associate students. So there are a range of opportunities, but I would say it's through the RA-ships that we're able to formalize that. And so, for example, currently, Julia, Ivania, and Ming all have RA-ships, and they're working on core research, and in some cases that is directly influencing their thesis production. With the track that brings students to Cornell Tech, this is a new track. This is a new part of the curriculum, but we have been able to pilot that, as we mentioned, for the last 4 years, where our students have participated in the product studio and collaborative studio experiences. And in that curriculum, students will have an opportunity to pursue specialization projects. So I highlighted one of those projects with Harold, who directs the XR Collaboratory at Cornell Tech, and that has just been amazing. It ended up being a 2-year collaboration between a Cornell Tech student and also a current MS student, and working directly with Harold. So part of that engagement is formalized, and in other areas, it's the initiative of the student and also faculty helping to make connections with those students. But I invite our inaugural faculty to maybe add to that in terms of how to get involved with core research.
I think I might be repeating of some of what Jenny says, but indeed there are some things where great students who are in the environment, ask questions about and talk their way onto joint projects. Can we find funding to help support those relationships, or people can sign up for independent study. I will say, I think in some ways, the reason why we have 2 tracks is because also the studio track is much more entrepreneurial. And so a lot of the students who do that, they tend to spend their extra energies towards the entrepreneurship, and they're a little bit less research focused. But sometimes we work and help those students with their entrepreneurial projects by providing research that helps them do that activity.
There was a question about whether or not the business school is involved with the program. And while they're not a formal part of the 5 participating colleges, the core studio sequence at Cornell Tech is taught by faculty that are a part of the business school and have joint appointments. So there are lots of opportunities to engage with faculty in business, especially through the Cornell track. Was there an additional question? I may have cut you off, sorry.
Oh, no worries. I'm Ivy, and I have a background in industrial design, and I'm also working in the industry right now as an industrial designer. And I'm curious that I know that you've mentioned a lot about coding, and that is definitely a field I'm interested in, but not a field that I have a lot of experience in. So I'm curious, in terms of my portfolio, I have a lot of design and industrial design background, but less of like a coding background. So in that case, do you have any recommendations for applicants like me to showcase my work, or through writing samples and resumes, etc.?
Well, I can kick off. So you certainly do not need to have a background in coding, scripting or algorithm design to apply to the program. Many of our extremely successful students come in with very little experience. So, we're interested in seeing what you've done previously in design, and the students who will be applying will have a variety of backgrounds, from the design arts, architecture, computer science, to the fine arts. So I would say make sure you showcase what you've been doing in industrial design and the types of projects that you've been engaged in. And it's perfectly okay to not have any coding experience.
Thank you.
Let's see, we have a question from the chat. So the question is, how does the design tech program interact with the fields of computing and cybersecurity? Maybe Wendy, since you're in information science, maybe you'd be the best person to start with that. And then I'll pass it to Timur. Maybe you can say a bit about what you've been doing with colleagues in InfoSci.
Yeah, I think at Cornell, information science really is kind of the human and information side of computer science. Most of the faculty information science also have joint appointments in computer science, and as I do. So I think a lot of the role that computer science is playing right now in design tech comes through information science. That said, we have future hires planned in the space of AI and design and in interaction design. And so I think we're going to see growth in that space, probably from the computer science side in the very near future.
Thanks, Wendy. And Timur, you want to say a few things?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, not sure if I'm the right person to speak to it, but I think, well, I think this link to computer science and is quite obvious in the sense of and information science, right? In the sense of data, data-driven design. We're collecting more and more data in the built environment in particular, and how can we make use of these things? And there are all kinds of questions on fairness and equity around that as well, of course, and privacy questions. I mean, in my research lab, we work a lot on, I think, computer science topics, information science topics, but without like a really deep collaboration with computer science. So I think students take classes there, but there's not, well, I think not in all cases is a need for like a deep collaboration. I think it's more an applied kind of research that we do in this area, and is a little bit different maybe from what a computer scientist would consider research.
And as we mentioned, one of the 5 participating colleges in the multi-college department is computing and information science. Francois had to exit, but he's also in information science and definitely engaging in interesting projects across these disciplines. Okay. So we have a question. I'm a student with a bachelor's degree in interaction design with industry experience. Can I enroll in this course to focus on user research or a particular domain? So I think Wendy's the best person to answer this question, but I would say that if you're coming in with a very specific research topic, that the thesis research track is probably the best fit, where you'll have, over a year to really deepen that interest and work with experts in that area. And we certainly have faculty who are experts in that area. Wendy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think maybe something that's worth noting is that the different disciplines have different ways of doing at the PhD level matching between the advisors and the advisees. But in a number of the disciplines, there is like a informal system of rotations where people do short projects with faculty in their early part of their PhD to decide who they're going to match with. And because there's already that culture, it's not difficult for people who are coming in at the master's level but interested in doing research to also find a nice lab that matches their interests, that they can find something to do with. And I think in some ways it's good to have the flexibility to do that while you are in the environment where you can see all the different options that there's no way you could imagine from outside of the university.
Thanks, Wendy. Are there questions from the, let's see, we have 2 participants with raised hands. Jane? She?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for hosting this info session. And I studied information science at Cornell as an undergrad. So I just graduated this May, and I think, and I'm very happy to see this new program coming up. So I think my question is, for now, as information science is a multidisciplinary degree for me. So I don't have any like very specific interest or very settled down research questions. But if I come to this program, how can the professors and colleagues here help me to find my specific track?
So the 2 tracks, either the thesis research track or the studio specialization project track at Cornell Tech, we will, as part of the admissions process, you will be asked to select which track you're interested in so that we can best support you as students once you're admitted. Should that change, there may be exceptions, and we'll work through that on a case-by-case basis. But the curriculum is really set up to ensure your success. And so the skills, the concepts, the modules, the technical methods taught both in the studio and also in the required courses are set up to not only ensure your digital dexterity and confidence with the tools, but most importantly, the concepts that span disciplines, so that if you're interested in the thesis research track, you can formulate a thesis question that then defines an area of inquiry. Or if you're more so interested in industry and more entrepreneurial applications of design tech, there's a wealth of faculty and resources at Cornell Tech to ensure your success. And the studio sequence there is really designed for that.
Great, thank you.
Great. Let's see. We have a raised hand from, is it Maya Hirsch?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so I have a question. I have like the opposite position of what people have been asking about. So I have a mechanical engineering and robotics background. I have a lot of engineering skills, but I am lacking a bit on the art part. And I have a lot of experience in research. And so I would like to ask you where should I apply to the research track or to the studio track if I want to develop my artistic skills? Like, because based on my experience, it would make sense to apply to the research track. But I don't know if based on me wanting to learn more about the art part and combining both worlds has more to do with the studio part. What do you recommend? What's your advice? Will I have a chance to learn also the art skills and technicalities in the research track or not?
Yeah, so it sounds like you're interested in pursuing what you have currently developed in, is it civil engineering you said?
Mechanical.
Mechanical. In robotics and robotic fabrication?
Correct.
Yeah, I would say, and certainly, we can continue this discussion, that probably the best track for you is to pursue a thesis research track and work with core faculty in Ithaca, both in design tech, architecture, and engineering, who are really doing amazing work in this space. For example, my colleague, Sasha Zivkovic, as well as colleague Leslie Locke, have collaborations in engineering with robotic 3D printing of concrete. Less of that is happening within the Cornell Tech track. But there are also interesting new initiatives happening in the Maker Lab with projects that are engaging with human-computer interaction and robotics. So I think it really depends on the kind of scale, the types of projects that you're interested in, and we as faculty can help, cater to that and make sure that you are, placed with the right faculty.
Okay, thank you very much.
But, feel free to follow up with any of us and we can help guide you.
I will. Thank you.
Let's see. Do we have any other raised hands? Is there another, let's see, a question from Gian, you?
Yes, coming in with another question. I have a fine arts background. Like I said, I have lots of professional experience, but I have no experience in doing research or writing papers. But I know that I'm definitely very interested in the thesis, in the research path. And I would like to know if you can tell me how can a student in 2 years go from completely beginner in terms of doing researches to putting out a proper research paper. Thank you.
I can speak to it just from my experience. I think it generally takes a year to write a really good paper, a research paper, where the first semester is kind of building kind of the research out, and then starting to kind of outline it, doing it, of course, and then writing it. Sometimes students are able to write papers within a semester if there is a little bit of kind of skills that they're available, and maybe some research is also simpler than other research. But I think having no experience in that is very normal as a student, and I think that's where we as faculty come in. And I at least work closely with my students in the lab to to learn how to write a paper for a specific journal or specific conference. And then, of course, throughout these kind of one-on-one meetings, we develop these publications collaboratively.
It is also possible to take a research method course, so that qualitative research, quantitative research, art research, design-specific research, you can take course in addition to getting guidance from the faculty mentor.
Maybe some of the students could speak to this too. As part of the second semester studio in the first year, we also bring students through a curriculum sequence that allows you to do literature review. We talk about the components of a research paper, what what's required to write a technical paper. So as my colleagues have said, it's very normal to not have any background on how to go about that in a rigorous fashion, and so we make sure that that is taught. And it's both taught through the courses, but also in your work and collaborations with faculty. Are there additional raised hands? Okay, there's a new question in the chat from Dara, who would like to know more about the interactive technology designed for architecture that the program had done. Is there any website I could look at for related info? We certainly can share previous work by students. We have a gallery set up, so I'll put a link in the chat. But again, maybe the students could speak to some of the work that they developed in the first studio, especially through the module that Wendy taught on interaction design.
So in my first semester, I did some works related to 3D printing, PLA on elastic fabrics. Then we try to use Arduino systems to control its like folding and unfolding behaviors. Then we aim to use that concept to design a like large urban scale interaction installations. But it sounds kind of abstract just by words. Yeah. So but I don't know, maybe I can show you my portfolio or website sometimes. Then yeah, but it's I would say you can choose lots of you have lots of freedom in that design studios. So you can do whatever you want for the in the interaction aspect. Yeah.
Julia, did you want to say a few things?
Like, I mean, I can share some of my experience. So I worked with a student that was actually working closely with Wendy last year. And we worked with AR and we developed a tool basically to allow people without design background to draw in space and conceive their own design in a very intuitive way. And so, to be honest, I'm an architect, so I was not all used to AR and this kind of interface. But yeah, as Ming said, you get to collaborate with other people from other departments, and yeah, you're able to develop these kind of tools or designs that are interactive, even if you don't have the background. Yeah, and it was an amazing experience.
If I can just jump in, I feel like there's a lot of questions that have to do with the qualifications and courses that students might have applying to the program. And I think one of the reasons why I think you're not getting a clean answer is what we're actually looking for is to have a course, you know, where people really have different backgrounds. So there's no particular class or skill set that we are looking for that is that's a make or break quality. That said, I think it's really important in your portfolio and your application to be showing that you have a lot of initiative, creativity, a fearlessness when it comes to new things. And those are things that are both useful in the research track and also the studio track. And then also, of course, just any experience you have with working across disciplines or in teams would be great to highlight. So those are the things that I think matter more. And there's no particular class that I would recommend that people do remedial work in to apply to this program.
That's great. Thank you, Wendy. So we have a question in the chat. I would like to know more about the access to biolabs. My primary interest has been on living materials and bacteria, which fascinates me. But my hurdle has always been having the right equipment to be able to experiment and take it further. Excellent, excellent question. And these are topics that were very much a part of our faculty task force discussions in terms of wet labs and facilities that are necessary. Maybe I'll kick off with a few things and then pass it to Uli. In my lab, through what is called an Atkinson grant. The Atkinson Center is a really amazing resource at Cornell that's focused on sustainability, but really broadly speaking across disciplines, and they offer a range of funding opportunities. And so through a 2-year grant, we are working with colleagues in materials science and engineering on the development of a living biotile that basically we're 3D printing tiles and bricks, ceramic bricks, that are then coated with a living yeast material, a biomaterial. And that yeast is being engineered genetically to mitigate the local environment of formaldehyde. So imagine a living wall in one's apartment. Unfortunately, there are high concentrations of formaldehyde in new apartment construction. And so we're looking at the possibilities of how living materials can clean our local environments. And so in that case, we're working directly with colleagues and students who have the equipment in their labs to be able to do that effectively. So a big part of the success in this type of work is also connecting, with faculty and students that have those resources. And that's certainly a part of what many projects are, that are being taken on in design tech. But maybe I'll pass it to Uli to say a few words about that.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. I want to echo that. I think one way to get access to very specific equipment is then maybe, for example, in the thesis track, let's say if, you would decide that you want to work with a particular faculty that is active in the biomaterials and biological world, then in that group you will have all the equipment you can possibly imagine, plus facilities at Cornell that have everything from genetic tools, transcriptomics tools, working with cells, doing optical super resolution microscopy. I mean, anything you can possibly imagine, you would have access to through, let's say, a thesis work that you can be the driver of deciding what it would be that you want to work on in your thesis part.
That's great. Thank you, Uli. Do we have any other raised hands? Let's see. Oh, we have a new question in the chat. Could you speak to what kind of work might be happening at the intersection of architecture, city science, and gender studies? Great question. I'm really interested in understanding a more phenomenological approach to the way we experience the built environment through technology. Really fantastic question. So I think in that case, some of the topics that you're raising, this could potentially be an amazing thesis research project. As you may know, in addition to design tech, we also have feminist and gender studies, really incredible faculty that are looking at these larger questions around technology. We also have history of science technologies and studies that are exploring topics from ethics to some of the bigger questions that you're posing around how we experience the built environment. So I would say, this is it's a complex question, but to me, it points towards probably a thesis research track where you would develop a committee of faculty that would span design tech, architecture, perhaps planning, and also feminist and gender studies as minor members contributing to your thesis research. There are also faculty at Cornell Tech that are working on aspects of sort of ethics and bias in technology, faculty colleagues of Wendy Jews, for example. So we can help, tailor your approach to that. Do any of our participating inaugural faculty have anything to add to that?
Yeah, maybe just to emphasize that, let's say in the thesis track, one thing that I always found really, really helpful in Cornell is that you can basically, in order to reach your educational goals, you can basically talk to your primary advisor, let's say in the thesis, to put together a committee around your thesis that basically brings in that, additional area of expertise that you want to connect to your field. And then in the interactions with these, thesis committees, you can really work towards achieving your educational goals. So I think that's a very nice degree of flexibility in order to really build the educational environment that you are interested in around you. And I would think that this, initially extremely interdisciplinary program will be particularly helpful in connecting areas that otherwise, if you were to go for a particular specific program, would not allow you to bridge. And I think that's what really sets this program apart, that you can, by actively, pursuing your own interests, build the educational environment around you in order to reach the goals that you set for yourself.
Thank you, Uli. So we have just about 7 more minutes. This has been a fantastic discussion and Q&A session. Let me just see if I have overlooked any of the questions in the chat. And if any of you would like to raise your hand, I can also unmute you. Oh, here's a question about the application process. I think Cheyenne put an answer in the chat, but I think many of you may have this question. Question is the application process exactly the same as the other graduate programs, or does this one require an additional element? The answer is the application process runs through the graduate school, and Cheyenne put the link in the chat, but we also require a portfolio, and as Wendy was mentioning, you know, if you also have a background where you have published work, you certainly can include prior publications. We're very interested in seeing that. Any final questions?
Yes. Sorry. If we
Yes.
have any more questions or we want some clarifications along the way, like not right now, how do we contact you?
Great question. So I'm going to put both my email address as well as the email address for Artur Alegre. Art is our amazing program coordinator. And so if you email Art, he will be able to then best connect you with the appropriate faculty member, but I'll put my email address in as well. Any other final questions before we bring our program to a close? I see one question I think that we may have overlooked that pertains to our post-professional programs in architecture and design tech. So the question was, you know, how are these programs different? So in architecture, we have a post-professional degree program, the MSAAD, that has sort of various concentrations. That program is housed within architecture and caters to students who have a prior degree, professional degree in architecture. So those are the students that are admitted. So that's a big difference, number one, between that post-professional program and design tech. We are, by design, looking for students with a variety of backgrounds, a diversity of experiences, and certainly not just architecture. That's just one of many potential backgrounds that you could come in with. So that's a very key difference. And then the other key difference is that the curriculum in the post-professional program is designed with you take studios that are architectural in terms of their focus. Certainly there are some deviations, but I think if you have more nuanced questions about the two programs, I encourage you to get in touch and we can organize a breakout session to answer more specific questions. So any last questions? And if not, I think we will bring this to a close. This is your final opportunity for the fall open house in design tech. As I think has been made apparent, we, the inaugural faculty, are so excited about this moment. We have all individually and collectively put in so much effort and time and vision and creativity and work and sweat to help get this off the ground together with our participating deans and students. And so it's a really exciting moment, and we're thrilled to be launching our first admission cycle, and really excited to hopefully be welcoming many of you in the fall of 2024. But I want to thank my colleagues for joining us today, and also our current students for taking the time to share your experiences thus far. And thank you to our amazing staff who are behind the scenes helping with all things tech on the Zoom call. So I think we will bring it to a close on time. And this has been recorded. We will post this, an edited version, to the Design Tech website. So if there are parts that you missed or you weren't able to join at the beginning for the presentation or introduction by Mi-Jin, please check it out and feel free to get in touch with us with any additional questions. So thank you. Have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. It's great to see all of you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.